Bringing people and communities together on seclosounds.org.
Your listening station.
On this week's travel show, I'm talking short break to Paris and a long break to the Falklands. That's coming up on the Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Hello and welcome to the Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. In a moment I'll be replaying a interview I did with Darren Christie from the Falklands Tourist Board down in the Falklands. I remember making this phone call not long after I called somebody in Finland, and the Finland call was really terrible, and this one, thousands of miles to the other side of the world, was pretty good in comparison. And then later in the show I'll be talking about Paris, an introduction to information on Paris based on an article I wrote for a travel magazine, and of course the travel news. Now the reason I'm replaying the Falklands this week is, well, there's two reasons. One, my wife and I, don't I sound posh, are thinking of going there for next winter, because of course you remember that their winters are our summers and our summers are their winters. The reason we want to go is just that we want to spend a few days watching rockhopper penguins. I really like them, I think they're cute, and just sitting there watching them as they do their stuff for the day just really appeals to me. Although now my wife realises it's a 20-odd hour flight, she's not so keen, so we might have to go via South America and do a bit of whale watching in Patagonia, but we'll see. So that was in our minds because of that. And then, of course, I'm sure you've seen the news about Top Gear being in Argentina and the coincidence about the car registration, which offended some of the Argentinians because they saw it as a reference to the Falklands War. If you haven't seen it, the registration was H982 FLK, if my memory serves me right. And if you're looking from a distance, it looks like 1982 Falkland, which is, of course, when the war was. So I spoke to Darren. I wanted to find out more about the Falklands because it was an interesting place of interest to me, because once I met, well, it's not their ambassador of Falklands, it's not big enough, but I met somebody who would have been the ambassador of the Falklands if the Falklands had an ambassador, when I was at a travel event with the British Virgin Islands. I'm such a name dropper. But anyway, I wanted to find out more, so this is a chance for me to recap what I learnt when I originally spoke to Darren, so I can go back to my wife and say, look, it may be a long flight, but we can do this, this and this. Darren, how far away from the UK are the Falkland Islands?
Okay, well, they're about 8,000 miles, but there's a few sort of interesting things to think about there. Everybody assumes that because there's a sort of a lot of the world in the northern hemisphere and not a lot at the bottom, that we must be sort of snowy and icy all the time, but we're not. We're as far south as London is north, so the weather and things like that are not wildly different. So yeah, we're 8,000 miles almost due south from the UK.
How long does it take to get there?
It's about, well, there's two different ways, but it's about 18 hours. Yeah, it's a long old way, whichever way you come. But yeah, there's two ways to get here. One's from RAF Brize Norton in Oxfordshire, and you fly out of there. It's about 8 hours, and then you've got a couple of hours on Ascension Island in the equator, where you can get out and stretch your legs and refuel and things like that. And then it's about another 8 hours on. So that's a long old way. Or you can come via South America. So you fly out of Heathrow, go to Madrid, go down to Santiago in Chile. You normally have an overnight there, then hop down South America down to Punta Arenas, and then across to the Falklands. So that one takes a couple of days if you go that way.
Which way would you do?
Well, both have their merits. I mean, it's nice going through Chile and seeing what that's got to offer. It's a fantastic place, but equally, it's quite nice just getting on the plane and not having to worry and check in and check out and all the rest of it. So yeah, I use both regularly.
With the Falkland Islands, how many islands are there, and can they all be visited?
Well, the Falklands, it's actually a massive archipelago. It's 778 islands altogether, covering an area about the size of Wales. But not all of them you can visit now. I mean, some of them are just the size of a car type thing, so yeah, you certainly couldn't get to all of them. But we've got the two main islands, East and West Falkland. That's where the vast majority of the population live. But then we've got loads of offshore islands that you can visit with lots of sort of tourist lodges and all that kind of thing on. So yeah, there's certainly plenty of places to see.
What is the accommodation like? I'm assuming there's no big hotels.
Well, it depends on where you go, really. In Stanley, we've got some really, really very nice hotels that, would be, what you would expect anywhere else in the world. But we've got a really good mix of accommodation across the Falklands. We've got everything from homestays where you can go and stay with the family and really sort of get to know the place. You can, we've got bed and breakfasts. We've got old sort of shepherd's houses out in the middle of nowhere, which are, really basic. You sort of take your own supplies out there and pump water and get generators going and get the peat stove going, for the more adventurous people. Or there's some, again, really nice accommodation out in the countryside. Sorry, I should probably explain, we call everything outside of Stanley camp. So that's just the countryside, really. But out in camp, there's some really good quality tour lodges and all that kind of thing. So there's something for everybody.
Now, peat, I fancy burning the peat. That sounds quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming you have to import most of the stuff, food and drink and supplies. Does that mean you're an expensive destination once you get there?
It swings and roundabouts, really. I mean, we're a sort of big agricultural country, so things like meat, sort of pork, beef, lamb, all that kind of thing is incredibly cheap compared to what you pay at home. And sort of root vegetables, things that we can grow here, again, are relatively cheap. But as you said, an awful lot has to be imported. So, if you're going to be pretty, it's pretty steep if you want to survive on bananas and sort of strawberries and all that kind of thing. Then that certainly does get quite expensive. But it's not radically different to the UK when you're here in terms of what accommodation costs, what transport costs. Our internet's a bit more expensive, but then fuel's really cheap. So, as I said, it swings and roundabouts. But, certainly the cost of things here isn't something that should be putting people off coming.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Coming up, we've got Eric and Ernie.
Join me here on Seclo Sounds.
In your smile. It's from 1975, Eric and Ernie were four...
Gary, it's not Eric and Ernie, it's Earl and Ernie, the Cape Brothers, Union Man.
Oh, I see.
Gary Fitz here, every Monday, 10 o'clock.
Earl and Ernie.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Still to come on the show, travel news, including a story where it turns out I may have actually been wrong when I gave my opinion on something last week. So you have to listen to find out what that is, because me being wrong is a very rare event. Or happens all the time if you speak to my wife. But at the moment I'm speaking to Darren Christie from the Falklands Tourist Board, and we're going to find out why people should go 8,000 miles to visit. Why would somebody want to go down to visit you? What is there to see and do?
Take your pick, really. I mean, it's just there really is something for everybody here. I mean, as I said, we're 8,000 miles away from the UK. And it's people often say it's a little piece of Britain. It's almost like what Britain was like in the sort of 60s type thing. We've got our red phone boxes and red post boxes and Union Jacks flying on roofs and things like that. So people quite like that side of things. But if you're a keen photographer, the skies that we've got here, there's no light pollution. We're a long way from anywhere. The whole Milky Way opens up at night, and the sky is just incredible. During the daytime, the light can change, at a moment's notice. We've got these massive landscapes, absolutely massive horizons. You can see as far, over the horizon as you can. It's just a really beautiful place. You've got your wildlife watching. You've got, you can go hiking, camping. We've got incredible fishing, actually. Trout fishing is supposed to be one of the best spots to come for trout fishing anywhere. We've got lots of rivers. Really, we've got interesting history. We've got sort of nice cultural stuff to do. People like spinning, weaving, all that kind of thing. But you can get out and see the farms as they're working, see what people get up to. Drive Land Rovers off road, go quad biking. It's a really exciting place to be.
If somebody's not into excitement, and you said that the weather's a bit like the UK, does that mean you can go down there and get a suntan?
On a nice day, you can actually. But we are slightly quirky because obviously there's nothing between us and Antarctica, so you can be out on a summer's day in your shorts and t-shirt. The wind changes to the south, and you get a sort of snow flurry go past, so you can see all seasons in a day. But I think there's a real misconception about the Falklands, particularly in the UK, where because it is so British when you see sort of programs on it and things on the news or whatever else. People expect it to be like Britain. And, of course, we're in the Southern Hemisphere. We're 6 months out in our season. So you could all be sat at home in your shorts and T-shirts drinking a cold beer, and you see something about the Falklands and we're all mooching around in the snow. So there's this real misconception that, we're sort of snowbound, icebound and all the rest of it. And it really isn't the case. And we get some really fantastic weather in summer. And we do have stunning beaches as well. People often say, it could be a beach in the Caribbean with white sand, blue waters, and you've got a bunch of penguins mooching past. So it's quite a good place.
I like watching penguins. I could watch them for hours. Are they entertaining down with you? And what other wildlife?
Yeah, they really are very, very quirky. We've got 5 different types of penguins in the Falklands, and they're all different. They've all got different personalities, different characters. Everybody loves the king penguins, the ones with the sort of orange band around them. They're really photogenic, but the other ones are actually far more entertaining. You see these things waddling up the beach. The gentoos, they come in and try and find their chick in the middle of a colony, so they've got food with them, and you just see them get running down the beach, like trying to get away with it from this sort of swarm of 20, 30 chicks who are all desperately trying to pretend that they're theirs and trying to get a free meal type thing. And our little rockhopper penguins, they're tiny little things, but you see them sort of coming in on massive surf and what they're called rock hoppers. You see them climbing up more or less sheer cliff faces in big storms and things, and they're just really tough, really charismatic little fellas. So yeah, they are every bit as entertaining as you might see on television, and there's nothing quite like seeing it for real yourself. And the Falklands is a great place in that the wildlife's not that used to people, so it's got nothing to fear from people. So you can just go down, sit on the beach, and before you know it, a penguin's wandering up, and one of the little rock hoppers will jump on your boot and give you, a good looking over and, pick at a thread on your trousers and then hop off again. So yeah, you get up close and personal. It's amazing.
I'm starting to pack right now because I love rock hoppers. I could spend my whole time just sitting there watching them. I wouldn't see.
Yeah, they're brilliant things. Yeah.
Is there any other wildlife?
There is. There's all sorts. I mean, obviously we're famous for penguins and all that kind of thing. There's over 1 million of them in the Falklands, but we've got a real diversity of stuff. Actually, we've got elephant seals, which is the biggest type of seal in the world. They're really quite incredible things. We've got lots of dolphins, whales. You can go whale watching in the Falklands. We've got orcas and all that kind of thing cruising around. There's over 220 species of other birds that you can see, and we've got sea lions, fur seals. Stuff pops up from Antarctica occasionally. You get leopard seals and Adelie penguins and whatever else pop up every now and again. And we get all sorts of weird stuff blow across from South America as well. We've had hummingbirds here in the past, and flamingos and all sorts of things. So yeah, it's you never quite know what you're going to see.
You're listening to the John Guinn Travel Show on seclosounds.org. Still to come on the show, travel news, including a unusual death from a cruise passenger, and also a brief introduction to Paris based on an article I wrote for a travel magazine. But at the moment we're still talking about the Falklands, and it's a long way to go. I hate needles. Do I need any injections?
Yeah, well, obviously, if you're coming through South America, it's best to check what you might need for countries en route type thing. But no, certainly in the Falklands, we've got nothing that bites or stings. We've got no mosquitoes, no midges. We've got no biting spiders or centipedes or anything like that. And yeah, there's no jabs needed for other than the usual ones you would have had in the UK. But you certainly don't need to start a course of malaria tablets or anything like that before you come and visit.
That's another big tick in the box for you. What about entry requirements?